What's happening, you guys? I'm back after a few day hiatus, and we have a new NBA champion. The Oklahoma City Thunder are your new champs. So, congratulations to the Thunder. It was an awesome NBA Finals, a great series. Ultimately, I do think the better team won, but I will say the Indiana Pacers made it very, very interesting. They started off game 7, making it very interesting. I'm not going to lie, it did not look great in the very beginning for the Thunder, especially with Halliburton going off how he was going. He was 3 for 4 from 3 until, of course, the moment that many of us will remember from game 7 when he goes down and he's pounding the floor. And you just feel for the guy. It's game 7. He gave it all he had. He had been playing a few games injured already. And frankly, I didn't think of him much as a scorer in this series, but he was coming through and starting off really hot in that game 7. I think the game would have probably come down to the wire, and it would have definitely been a lot closer, in my opinion, than what it ended up being. But I do think the Thunder ultimately proved to be the better team. Not to take away anything from them. I obviously thought that they were going to win the whole thing. I think they deserved it. SGA, throughout the whole game, was the MVP. He showed up. And the Thunder are built for eternal success. We don't really know that because in the NBA, everything can change all the time. And so at least they got that first one. They got one out of the way. And now obviously people can start to talk about and dream about possibly a second championship, maybe a dynasty, and all those fun conversations that'll come along. But ultimately they got one. And getting that one is the hardest one to obviously the hardest hump to get over. And they did it the right way. They built. They took time. They took patience. They got the right guys in there. And, they are pretty set for the future. Their outlook looks great. It looks like the best of any team in the league. So congratulations to the OKC Thunder. And again, just a great NBA season. We really had it all. I want to touch upon this conversation that sparked after that, which was what's going on with all these Achilles tears. Obviously, Halliburton has his. Then you have, Dame Lillard had his in the first round. Jason Tatum had his in the second round. So there were ultimately 7 ruptures throughout the NBA season. And obviously everybody, now that became the big topic of conversation. And many people think that the workload and all this, and I'm going to give you my opinion on what I think it is. And it's not a popular opinion. I do not think it's the workload. I think there's been 82 games in an NBA season for forever. And if anything, the technology is better, the lifestyle is better, the training is better, the staff that works with these guys is better. They don't have to fly coach anymore. Everything is better. And the workload has stayed the same. If anything, it's gotten easier. When I was a kid, there used to be back-to-back-to-backs. Now, having a back-to-back and you get a LeBron tweet of him complaining about a back-to-back. So the workload is not harder. You could argue that the pace of play is faster. I'll give you that. You could even argue the way they train is harder. Sure. The argument that I've heard that I kind of do see being, something to do with that is that now with AAU and the fact that the NBA has become so big and popular is you got these parents wanting their kids to be NBA superstars at a very early age, and they're playing a lot of basketball when they're younger, for sure. So that argument of the workload, I can understand. But don't get it twisted. These guys in the NBA, the pros, they are not, in my opinion, having a tougher workload. And my theory, which, again, is an unpopular one, is that I think that with load management, with new rules of how often these guys can practice, I do think that these guys ramp up during a playoff game. Like, you have the regular season, which the guys, a lot of these teams, I feel like don't care for as much. And come April, the playoffs start. Now guys are playing, they're going till exhaustion. Now they're playing and they're, running themselves into the ground. Whereas, if it's about workload, look at the Knicks. The Knicks came out pretty healthy. And the Knicks, with Tom Thibodeau, he was playing the starters 40-plus minutes a night in the regular season in a blowout. But I do think that there is something to say about these guys during the regular season. It's almost like, they have toned it down so much as to how it used to be that now when the playoffs come up and they really do care and they're going all out, it's night and day. The switch is turned very quickly. Instead of a ramp up period, which should be training camp, then the regular season, you should play really, really hard for 82 games. So then when you get to the playoffs and you don't have any more back-to-backs, and now you're, reaching another level, of effort, that's balanced out with the fact that you're not doing that level of effort on the back-to-back. Now you have 2 days in between when you're traveling. Now the playoffs, the finals were spread out over almost 3 weeks for 7 games. So again, that's my theory. I know that won't go anywhere because people don't want to hear that. But, as someone that, also trains for my performance, the way I train is I got to be able to do my routine 2 times in a row without stopping, so that when I'm in front of a crowd, doing it 1 time in a row should feel pretty easy. So you train harder than you play, essentially. And I think that is not the way it goes anymore. And I'm not trying to take anything away from these guys, because when it comes playoff time and the finals, as you see, they're going all out. But it's a different sport night and day when you're watching a game 7 of the NBA finals and you're watching a Tuesday night TNT game in December. And I think that's a big difference. I think if they were playing almost as hard in December, or at least that difference wasn't as wide, their bodies would be more used to the energy that they're exerting and the effort they're exerting in the game 7 of the NBA finals. And that's my theory. Like it or leave it. That's what I think. And another thing, we'll talk about the NBA draft, obviously. Cooper Flagg Dallas is the winner of this draft. But I definitely, with a lot of these situations, I don't want to let Nico Harrison off the hook. Like, yeah, you got the number 1 pick, and that's awesome for Dallas. I'm happy that Mavs fan base is awesome. But don't get it twisted. That was still a terrible trade to make. Like, you could have gotten so much more for Luka Doncic. So, in a way, I'm happy for the Mavs for sure. But I don't, just because you got that wasn't part of the trade. Like, that's not what you thought you were going to do. That wasn't a vision you had. So don't get that twisted. I don't want to let I shouldn't say the Mavs, but the Mavs, because ultimately it's not just Nico Harrison, but I don't want to let them off the hook for getting Cooper Flagg. Like, sometimes you stumble into luck, and I think they did there, and good for them, because I think the Mavs team's going to be pretty damn good next year, especially when Kyrie Irving, if they can hold steady till he comes back, they're in a solid situation. Brooklyn, everybody's like, what were they doing? They picked 5 guys with their 5 first-round picks. And, yeah, the downside to that is that was ammo for you to trade for someone that could be established. But at the same time, if you have patience, if 2 of these guys hit, looks like a great draft suddenly for the Brooklyn Nets. And, it's tougher for them with patience because they've been bad for a few years. But that's what, the Thunder, accumulated draft picks, made picks, let those guys develop, and that's why they're NBA champions. So Brooklyn, I know it's easier to, to pound the table and laugh at them for their draft, but at the end of the day, we don't know. This is all a crapshoot. Yes, sure, you can make a great bet that Cooper Flagg is going to be a great NBA player for sure, but after that certainty in the beginning, really it's a crapshoot. Even people are hating on the Pelicans, and I get it. I do think they gave up a lot. They traded up from the 23rd pick. They traded that to Atlanta to move up to 13, plus gave them next year's first-round pick, which is a pick swap with Milwaukee. So now that's 2 chances to have a great pick, because a pick swap means that the Pelicans would have either picked with their own pick if they sucked next year, or if Milwaukee was worse, you would get to pick with Milwaukee's pick, which would be a better pick if they were worse than the Pelicans. Now you gave that card to the Hawks. So now the Hawks are going to sit there and be like, as long as Milwaukee or New Orleans, if the one of those 2 is in the lottery, we're going to have a pretty good pick next year in the draft, thanks to the Pelicans. Sure, on paper, it looks like a terrible trade because Derek, they picked Derek Queen with that 13th pick, so that's who they moved up for. But at the end of the day, we can criticize it all we want right now. But if Derek Queen becomes the next SGA, MVP of the league, then they look like geniuses. So sometimes the reactions right after the draft, I think, are premature. Like, obviously, the experts, let them, give us their thoughts on what they think. But to unequivocally say somebody was the loser of the draft or the winner of the draft. Like, we don't know that. We do not know that. So we'll just wait and see how it all plays out. And the last tidbit here with the NBA is that the Raptors earlier today let go of Masai Ujiri. He was the president of basketball operations there. Bobby Webster was the GM. Apparently, Bobby Webster has re-signed already to stay along with the Raps. So he's going to be there. Maybe he will be promoted as president. Masai Ujiri did a great job in Toronto. Honestly, he's the reason they won the championship. He pulled off, it's not even the trade necessarily, but it's the balls on this guy to make that trade, to trade DeMar DeRozan, who was beloved in Toronto at that time, for a Kawhi Leonard who did not want to come to Toronto and was very known that there was very high chance that he wasn't going to re-sign there in the last year of his deal. And, Masai made the deal and the Raptors win the championship, and you have to give him all the credit in the world. So it'll be tough to see him go. He created a culture and he gave Toronto a respect. But at the same time, the last 4 years haven't been great in Toronto. The last 4 years of, transactions haven't been great. They waited too long on Pascal. They waited too long on OG Anunoby. They waited too long on Fred VanVleet, who walked for nothing. And ultimately, the Raptors team hasn't been that good the last 3 years. So it sucks because of the stature that Masai Ujiri holds within Toronto and its fan base. But at the same time, the team wasn't the number one seed in the East. They've been struggling. So making a change, everyone's scared of change, but sometimes you need someone to get in there and not be, comfortable and kind of rattle it a little bit and see what they can do. So, the Raptors are full of young talent right now, and they need to make some trades to probably, contend. But, maybe it's time someone else gets that shot. Maybe it is Bobby Webster now that gets to call the shots completely on his own, and maybe he turns out to be incredible. But definitely Masai was, he's a Toronto great. He's a Toronto legend. And yeah, so shout out to Masai Ujiri. We'll see what the Raptors do from here. On one more thing, Ace Bailey, who did not want to work out for any NBA teams because he kind of wanted to control his destiny in the draft, gets drafted number 5 by the Utah Jazz. And apparently he's not happy or whatever. But in the interview after he was drafted, he said all the right things. Apparently, there's rumors that he didn't end up going to Utah. I don't know what to believe on these rumors, but I will say this. If he even thinks about holding out or doing something crazy like that, it just goes to speak for what we're doing with these young athletes in this modern day of mostly the NBA, because I do feel like with football, at least they tell these guys, they can't get into the league until they've played a year of college at least. So most of them are upperclassmen that have played college football, that have grown up into, being young adults a little bit more and mature a little bit. With the NBA, if you're doing this and you're kind of trying to control everything, like, calm your ass down, bro. Like, you haven't done anything in the league yet. You've played 1 year at Rutgers. Like, nah, like, sometimes I'm all for player empowerment, but I'm also happy that Danny Ainge drafted this kid and said, hey, man, don't forget who's in charge here. And if you want to sit out and sacrifice all that money, be my guest. But at the end of the day, you're hurting yourself. You're hurting the people around you. And, you're hurting your reputation. And people will forget about you. Like, if you want to sit out for a year and then a second year, other kids are going to be successful in the league. Other kids that got drafted in other teams that maybe they didn't really want to go to, but made the most out of their opportunity, are going to be way further ahead and, are going to be successful while you're over there pouting about a chance to play in the NBA. So I think that's really sad that it went down, that seems to be going down that way, but we'll see. The reports are all over the place. Until the Jazz have to report to training camp, or he actually skips out on a press conference, then, we will see. The Jazz also drafted Walter Clayton Jr. When they do his introductory press conference, if Ace Bailey's not there, then it's a story. For now, he can say what he says or what rumors are that he's saying. I won't believe any of it until I see that. Once I see that, if that happens, then we can say, like, all right, you're going too far, kid. But I just think even the mentality of wanting to kind of control where you're going and all that and taking so much command of your career when you're 18, you've played one college basketball year and you're going to be able to be in the NBA, and you're threatening teams with things like that. Like, it's not a good look. So don't act on it. I don't care for words. So if you just want to say those things and threaten people, like, I don't think it's a good look, but fine. But once actions get put into that, then that's when I'll lose respect for you. Like, leverage is leverage. That's fine. If you wanted to go to Washington and you say, like, I would rather go to Washington, like, that's transparency. That's fine. But once you get drafted, man, it's an opportunity of a lifetime for these guys. And I think that they should take full advantage and make the most out of it. Ultimately, it's your career. The Jazz, the Thunder, the Magic, whatever team it is, they'll forget about you if you decide to sit out and be pouty and not show up to work, essentially. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on what's been going on with the NBA. We'll talk football soon. That's around the corner. Training camps are about a month away, and I cannot wait. Football's when we'll really get into it. I can't wait for that. So, Summer League is next for basketball. But other than that, I mean, I guess free agency comes before that. Not crazy names, but a lot of moves will happen. No big time superstars available, but who knows? Trades could still happen. Things could happen. So we'll see what happens next. So thanks for listening. Subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.